In this video, I'm going to be discussing the EU plans on how they will be changing the phone creation in the near future and how this will affect you when buying these phones. So let's get right into it. So as you can see on the news headline, new EU legislation may change how Apple makes its phones in the future. Now, as we know, Apple has, is a million dollar making company. And in how they manufacture their products is unique because they got the lightning cable at the bottom of the devices, and that in its sense creates a fast charging adaptation, so you can plug it into the phone and it can charge relatively faster compared to USB-C that is designed merely for the Androids. But Apple has actually adapted to that with the iPad mini and the MacBooks. However, on the iPhones, it will then conquer and it will make an issue with the battery life, because USB-C haven't exactly been constructive for the iPhones, because Apple has its own design and they follow certain procedures in making and producing that device, so then users can have the maximum satisfaction when using and preserving its use and lifespan. So this EU plan is going to disrupt Apple's production, and it's going to be unregulated, and I don't know how Apple then is going to change the way that they have done these iPhones, because they always had the Lightning port since they made these iPhones. So it's going to be a question raised with Apple: can they adapt to USB-C for an iPhone, knowing the risks of that happening? Everyone takes a risk, and everyone's a risk taker, but is it really worth that? Because customers that buys these USB-C phones that are iPhones will be slightly annoyed, considering that they would be better off having a Lightning connector and not the USB-C that's not really regulated and not really designed for iPhones. So everyone's going to be a bit, annoyed with that. Annoyed with the change. That doesn't really have to be. Since the release of iPhone 5, Apple has used the Lightning port and its properly charging port, and is familiar to all iPhone users worldwide. However, new legislation proposed by the EU may force Apple to adapt to USB-C for all its future iPhones. The suggestion of USB-C appears to be the most common for phones. This type of charging port is already used on the most common Android devices, such as these products by Samsung, Huawei and Nokia. In fact, USB-C is already used by Apple for its MacBook line for laptops and iMac models. However, USB-C can actually be used with MacBooks and iPads, simply because they can actually be produced, they can be made in a way that's adapting that change in technology. The iPhones, however, is a risky move, because there could be all sorts of damning effects by changing to USB-C. The company said that forcing the legislation would hurt innovation and create a surge of electronic waste, since iPhone users would have to ditch their own old charger for new ones. Not only that, if customers or thousands of customers had an iPhone 7 that's already got USB-C, you would then realistically have to buy an adapter, Lightning port to USB-C to charge it. Because if they don't produce these Lightning port chargers and your original breaks, you've got to buy adapters, and that's another financial motive in changing the way your device charges. And I think it's just completely nonsense that this has to happen, or even thought about happening. Apple has aimed to reduce electronic waste in the past couple of years. One of the most controversial moves was not including a charger in the iPhone 12 lineup last year, when they claimed was to reduce electronic waste, since most iPhone users already have a Lightning port charger. In 2019, a study found that mobile devices in the EU came with 3 charging options. Half of them had a micro USB connector, 29% had a USB-C, and 21% were iPhone with Lightning connectors. Legislation is currently being drafted and it's not yet clear what suggestions will be made. However, last year, European Parliament makers voted in favour of introducing a common charger. So, theoretically, what you can take from that article is they don't want USB-C in a plug, they just want a standard wire charger. In theory, that's just going to break over time, because if it's that thin for the charging wire and overuse, and it's been overused, it will break. So these ideas that European legislation are thinking is just absolutely daft, and it's incredibly insane. Why not just leave it like it is? I mean, Apple knows what they're doing, and they'll adapt to that in time. Don't make it law. Let these production companies, these companies, do it in their own time when they can regulate this technology, regulate the move, and make sure that battery life isn't affected, usability, the customers are getting what they want and they're using it without any fuss or any sort of complaints. Because realistically, who's going to be gaining anything from this? There's still going to be electronic waste. So it's too soon for this. It really is too soon for this hefty and unrealistic decision. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments about this insanity decision by the EU legislation. If you are wondering if it affects the UK, that's also unclear, because Apple makes their products internationally and they don't make them in the UK. So even having it imported from different countries into this country, that's already a concern, because if that changes and we're not part of the EU, we then all have to adapt to this change, and it's unfair. And I think the customers should, the customers and the consumers should also voice their opinion about this, because I just think it's idiotic.